Ladies and gentlemen, grab your tea and get ready for Tea Talk, where the topics are real, relevant, and relaxing. It's Tea Talk time, and here is Lady O.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Good to have you today at Tea Talk. I am so excited that each one of you are here and want to encourage you to go ahead right now and share right now with all of your friends, your Facebook. Share it right now because you're not going to want to miss this. And you got to have it to see again. You're not going to be able to reach everything and remember everything. So go ahead and share. I want you also to make sure that you are a follower, that you click that follow button so that every time Tea Talk comes on, you'll be notified. And just share it with all of your friends. This is some great information. And by all means, comment. I like to hear back from you. What are your thoughts? What are you saying? If you have any questions, you need to write them in the comments because we want to answer your questions. So, again, welcome to Tea Talk. Now, today, the subject is going to be something that is very relevant to all of us. As you know, here on Tea Talk, we discuss anything that's important to you, anything that's relevant to you, and giving you information. So, you're going to get some of all of that today because today, my topic is about something that happened this past week in the Cypress Fairbanks Independent School District. As you all know, that we live in Cyfair. We raised our children in Cyfair. I have taught in Cyfair. I've been a counselor for a school in Cyfair. I love Cyfair. And my husband has been on the school board for 18 years in Cyfair. So Cyfair is like our family. We love it. And it's a great, wonderful, wonderful district. So right now we're getting some really embarrassing publicity, but that is not who Cyfair is. We have a wonderful superintendent, Mr. Mark Henry, who is not any relation to the other gentleman, but we have a wonderful school district and we've enjoyed this district for over 30 years. And now we've got this blight on our reputation. But I just want you to know that we are, addressing it, but we love Cyfair and it's a great district to be in. So listen, without further ado, I want to get into the information because um, this is a 1 hour show and it seems to go by so fast when you have some wonderful things to talk about. So make sure you've told everybody we're on and get involved. Parents, if you're not a parent in the district, maybe you pay taxes in the district, you may be a teacher, you may be a custodian, whatever you are, you need to be involved in this conversation today. Now, today I have some very important guests, and they're from all different walks. We have a parent, Mr. Bruce DeMayer is going to be here, and then we have the president of the Harris County Democratic Party, Mr. Chair, he's a chair, Mr. Otis Uvagar, oh, E- Evagaro. Thank you, Evagaro. Give me a minute. Okay. Then we have Dr. James Dixon, who is the president of the NAACP. And then none other, we have not least but less, not less but least. I'm a little nervous, excuse me, but these names. We have my own Dr. John Ogletree, who is a former school board member. So these gentlemen are going to come and talk to us today. They will introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves. So without further ado, I want to bring, let's see this right quick. What led us to this point? Why are we here? We are here because of a statement that one of the board members made concerning African American teachers. And I'm sure most of you have heard it's been on all the news channels. At the school district, there was a big meeting. And so it's been on for the whole week and it's not going to go away. Because, rather than me say what he said, why don't you go ahead and let's listen to what he said? And then you can get that foundation and thoughts on it for yourself. So, can we go ahead and have the clip of the remarks that was made this past week, Mr. Henry? Okay, while they're getting that loaded up, let me just say this um, that not only people are saying, well, we misunderstood his statement, but there were a lot of other things on his website and things that have been shared with me. And I don't know if they've been shared with you, but we do want to share um, them with you so that you can make up your own decision. I think they're having a little technical difficulty in getting that uploaded, but we will come back to it because I want you to see for yourself. I don't want you to just hear what I'm saying and my thoughts about it. I want you to see for yourself. And what do you think about it? What is your what are your thoughts? And what do you think he was trying to say by the pictures on his Facebook, what he tweeted, and what he said? And even after all of the comments that were made at the school board meeting, the hurts and the things that were voiced at the school board meeting, he made comments afterwards that still had a lot of people really wondering whether or not he really got it, that he really heard our hurts and our desires. So if you can, it's my daughter calling. Oh, there it is. Okay, go ahead.
But SciFair has what, 13%
Get a
black
little
teachers. I know you
volume.
mentioned that earlier. Do you know
Hey,
what the
honey.
statewide average is for black teachers?
Hello.
Not at this moment, sir.
10%.
We'll get that
10%. I looked it up. The statewide average for black
I
teachers
can't
is
hear
10%.
it.
Houston ISD, which I'll use the shine example, you know what their average number of percentage of black teachers is? 36%. I looked that up. You know what their dropout rate is? 4%. I don't want to be 4%. I don't want to be HISD.
Now, this afternoon, Scott Henry released.
Okay, so that was a statement that was made, and I, being an African American teacher in ISD, in Klein ISD, and in Cypher ISD, and a counselor, African American counselor, I was very offended by it because what it said to me, what I took from it personally, as an African American teacher, that we are not as good at teachers as white teachers or other teachers, and I was like, and that if we teach a black student, that the possibility of them dropping out of school goes up. So I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's what I took it to mean. When I was looking at my Facebook page too, someone sent me this message, which I already knew it, just being with African American students and having three African American males and one female go through the district. I know what it's like to walk into a classroom and see a black teacher. I mean, as a black parent, your heart just kind of goes like, my child's going to be okay. And that's just the way it is. And I think the same thing if you had a whole school of black children and you had a white teacher, as a white parent, you'd be like, okay, they're going to be okay. You just feel a sense of relief. And so this is what one of my friends sent to me on Facebook. So you look it up for yourself. But he said, sounds like this Scott Henry guy needs to be educated. According to a massive educational experiment in the mid 1980s called the Tennessee Star Experiment, one of the most critical experiments in educational research history exposed these facts. Black students who were exposed to Black teachers by third grade were 13% more likely to enroll in college. If kids had two Black teachers by third grade, Hart said, the likelihood of college enrollment jumped to 32%. Hart and her colleagues called this the role model effect. Now, see that look at this study here because I think what he's saying is so true. When we make statements like that, it's either we are racist or evil or whatever, or we just don't know. And so if you don't know, then you need to listen to get understanding. And after hearing all the things that were said this past week that he heard, I would think that his response would be very different. He would say, I need to get more information. One of the things that I also read this past week or a week before, that when you stop listening, you stop learning. So if you're going to really want to know about what you said, why it was wrong, you need to listen to what people are saying and you can learn. But if you're not going to listen, if you're stuck on your thoughts, if you're stuck on, just how you feel about it, that you're right, you're never going to learn. And if you're going to represent this district that is a diverse district, then you've got to learn about the different cultures that you represent, because you don't represent, as Dr. Ogletree said, you don't represent 20%, you represent 100% when you take on this position. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Dr. Ogletree, because he has a lot of information, and we're going to be sharing the screen today because we have a little technical difficulty upstairs. But I wanted him to come on because he has been on the Cypher School Board for 18 years. And he has, like we both have had children go through the Cypher district, had friends and church members and other pastors in the district of Cypher. So he knows Cypher very well, and they know him very well. So welcome, Mr. Ogletree, to Tea Talk.
Hey, glad to be on Tea Talk again, and we're glad that you're addressing this subject that's so critical to our community.
So after being in the district for over 30 years and having children and friends and so forth, did you imagine that in 2022 that race will be made an issue in Cypher? And with this new board member, did you imagine that race would come up with this new board member?
Well, I wish I could say that I was shocked, but I was not. We have to remember that the 3 board members who won ran on critical race theory. They made race the central issue of their campaign. And they put forth that anytime we talked about diversity, equity, inclusion, that was nothing but critical race theory. And they did not want that done in our district. So it just set the stage for something like this to happen, because they do not want diversity, inclusion, and equity in our district.
Yes. And I know too that when you run for a position and you win, the people that put you in there expect for you to continue with that agenda. So if that's the agenda that he was running on, I can see why you would say that you weren't surprised, because that's what he said up front all along, to be able to win. So how do you feel about, I know that you were on the school board with the inception of the equity audit and the resolution about racism. So how do you feel about the review or even the removal? I think they're talking about just doing away with it. Now, what are your feelings on that?
Well, I am concerned. I'm concerned because the motto of Cypher is opportunity for all. And we enacted and voted as a board that resolution on racism. Of course, it happened after the George Floyd murder, and after all the demonstrations across the country and all the change, the move toward understanding the issues that are hurting America. And then our superintendent, Dr. Mark Henry, made a statement to our community embracing diversity and inclusion. So we as a board said we cannot just let Dr. Mark make a statement, we have to make one. And so we came up with a resolution on racism and saying how we wanted our district known for equity and inclusion and diversity. And we, in that resolution, we called for the equity audit. We also asked that our schools become no place for hate schools. And of course, that was attacked, the no place for hate. But I'm concerned about any movement backwards. I'm concerned, and they are looking at the resolution now. And I think there might be a few changes or a new something that is put forth. The criticism was that the board shouldn't have done this, that it should have been the community that did it. And so I'm concerned about the dropping of the equity audit. I do believe that that the majority of the board members and our superintendent still believe we must go forth with the equity audit. In fact, the study that was done preliminarily by the equity audit team proves and shows that we need an equity movement inside fair. In fact, what Scott Henry said proves that we need equity audit and equity measures in our district, because the vestiges of racism and discrimination still linger.
Yes, yes. And, one of the things that you said so much there, Pastor Bishop, but I wanted to one thing that just really made me just cringe when you said that the district had a motto of no place for hate. No place for hate. And this new group wanted it removed, and it was removed. That bothered me. So if it's no place for hate, is Sci-Fair a place for hate? No, I know it's not, but I'm just saying what the wording could be thought of is if you're removing something, or if you're upset because people say this district is no place for hate. Well, what does that mean? Okay, so I know what it means, but
yeah, it wasn't the motto, but it was a program by the Anti-Defamation League that was in a lot of schools across the country, trying to get people to understand the dignity of human beings and to love and appreciate each other.
Yeah, because what he was saying, that when my child went to school, if my child was, different, and my child was gay, or my child was, looked a certain way, or skinny, or, overweight, that people could not bully my child and make my child feel uncomfortable and crying every day. So it just meant a fairness for all, as Flair is saying here. So, I couldn't understand why that was removed, but that's not for us to discuss today. But I did want that noted, that I don't know why that was removed. But I do know that it came at the or why was it removed? Was it?
It was dropped because of this same group of people saw on the website of No Place for Hate. They saw that they supported Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
And they said they did not want their children learning or having anything to do with Black Lives Matter.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing that's sad, the other thing that was said here too, that you were talking about moving forward and moving backwards. And so this equity audit that was done, it was a way to move forward. So if they were to get rid of this, do you see that as a moving backwards?
It would be backwards, or at least keeping us stagnant and not addressing. See, all equity is a pledge to meet the educational need of every child. And that's regardless of race, ethnicity, language, religion, disability, family background, or family economic status. It just says we're going to meet those needs. And if we don't pursue equity, I'm afraid that many of our children that are already behind, and the gap, the achievement gap will widen, and we will do disservice to a great number of our children in the district.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Ogletree, before you leave, do you have any comments on what we do now? Where do we go from here? Where is Sci-Fair going from here? Do you?
Well, I believe that we have to stay in front of the board. We cannot let this just be a one school board meeting issue. We have to continue before the board. We have to read all the reports, listen to every statement that's made, and we need to organize.
All right.
It's important that we organize.
Very good. And so let me just, can you tell me right off, you said be present. We got to be at those school board meetings. I know y'all like looking at them at home, but you need to be there. You need to, those seats need to be filled with people that are ready to stand up and say, no, this is not going to happen. So when do the school boards meet, and can you give us that information or the website or where they can find out?
Well, you can go to cfisd.net, and then you click on board meetings, and you will find out when the board meets. At first, there's a work session that no actual votes take place, and then there is the actual board meeting. So keep up with it, and pray for the district.
Amen. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogletree. So what we're going to go to now is appearance. What's most important in this district? The reason why we have a school district is because there are people who have children, and there are parents here. So I wanted to have a parent come on. I think the children they're listening, but right now, and we're going to probably have one on. We talk to the children, see what they're thinking, because I think y'all will be amazed about what these kids would be saying about the parents and how they're acting. But I would like to bring on now Mr. DeMeyer. And Mr. Bruce, would you come on? Welcome to Tea Talk.
Yeah, thank you, Lady O. Very, very excited to be here. Obviously very humbled by being, amongst a panel of Dr. Dixon, Otis, Dr. O, yourself. But like you said, I'm a parent here in Sci-Fair. I've got 3 kids who are or will be attending Sci-Fair. And, actually it was because of equity that we chose Sci-Fair. Me and my wife moved to Houston in 2014, decided that was going to be our long-term home. And when we were looking around at houses, Zillow had this greatschools.org rating of, what's the diversity of the school? And then not only the diversity, but what was the equity rating? It was something we didn't know about back then. We had no idea what equity was. And as we learned about it, we said, this is important. Not because I have Black children, my children are white, but because the construct of equity, it's not a zero-sum game. The more that all students do better, even diverse students, the more the whole community will do better.
Exactly. And Mr. Meyer, when you were saying I could just see it, what people don't realize, this is our world. It's not your world or my world. It is our world. And when your children graduate and they go to college, they're going to be going to school with a lot of diverse people. They're going to be working with a lot of diverse people. So diversity is here. And I don't have the statistics before me, but as a teacher, when I first came to Sci-Fair many years ago, I was one of 2 Black teachers in my school building. And in the school, there were not very many Black or Hispanic or kids of color. And it was more like, I think like 10% of the district was minority students. It was very low. But as I've grown now, and you might know this number, and I'll let Dr. Ogletree go, but I believe the minority students are now 60%. Am I right? That
it might be more than that. I actually pulled up the report from the equity audit, and the student demographics for white students is only 22%. So that implies, 78% of the students are non-white students.
Right. And that's the big reason why we have to be careful about who we allow on the school board, because if you grew up in an area where you thought a certain way, it's going to be hard to represent 78% of minority because you don't even know them. So that moves me into my point about the audit. I know that in your business where you work, y'all do audits, and kind of talk to me about the audits. Do you think an audit is necessary for the district? Why?
Absolutely. As I noted, I'm a partner at one of the largest public accounting firms in the world, and we do an equity audit, and every year, and we have a long-term growth profile that's focused on hiring more diverse folks into our firm and promoting those folks. It's clearly been a strong challenge for us. But, going back to 2020, all the protests, the murder of George Floyd, and all the resulting fallout from it, we had to go and look at ourselves. We appointed a chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. So in our work world, we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, all the time. And I know that when I'm hiring folks, I want people that aren't just going to yes me to death. I want people who are going to come in with a different view of the world, that were brought up maybe slightly different than me, so that when I'm attacking a challenge for my clients, I have all different inputs on what I'm going to do, and I'm going to listen to all of those. Now, we as a business, it's challenging because, by the time you get to, coming out of college, how much has already happened to impact that base? And so when you think about how does this actually play in and connect the students, your kindergarten student, to what's going to happen, 15, 20 years down the line, when they're going to apply for a job, if we haven't been focusing on these issues all the way back to then, it's just going to keep exacerbating itself. And then when we're in the business world, are trying to make changes, we're kind of doing it with one arm tied behind our backs if people aren't doing this. And so when you get these audits, you should be listening, with two ears. And that's what we do, when we get our annual audits. But, I went and listened to, the trustees, comments, and, all of his comments were, it was a pile of rubbish. It's a heap of junk. It's, he was so afraid to talk about white privilege because it's going to hurt people's feelings. It doesn't. And let me, as a white person, say, if you're white, you're not going to face racism. This whole construct of reverse racism, it doesn't exist. I'm sorry. And, this fragility to be afraid to look in the mirror and address, the sins of the past and not be able to say, well, let's be better about it. It just shows that it's people who are going to continue to make those mistakes. And so I'm not at all surprised that this is where it went. The campaign rhetoric, them doing what they're doing, it's completely in line with the campaign rhetoric here. But hopefully now that it matters, we're at least saw one change. This is turned into his employer said that's not in line with our values. And I can tell you, as an employer, that wouldn't be in line with our values either.
Right. And I really, my heart goes out for the board, because my husband's been on the board for many years, and making those hard stands to take a stand for what's right may not be popular, but companies are doing it every day. And that's not who companies are. So I'm praying that our district, I know that's not who they are either, but when you get 3 new people on the board who you don't know, I'm hoping that all 3 of them don't feel this way, but I certainly am really questioning about the way this particular guy is leaning with making decisions. See, they make decisions about so many things, and it affects all of the children. And if they don't think of your children, even staff, I'm thinking if I want to get hired on the district, I wouldn't be able to get hired over a white person because he has these preconceived notions. So back in the day, and I don't know if they ever did this with the district, but we were looking at some sensitivity training and those kind of things. And I think that might be something that we need to have all of our board members and people go through. For all races, because as a teacher, I sought to understand all my other races of children and religions and so forth. But some people feel like they don't need to do that. So an audit, when we look back at an audit, it shows your deficits. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I mean, deficits, area for improvement, the whole SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Very good. So what are they, what are we not wanting to hear? Those are things that you need to know. If you're going to get better, if you're going to really help the students, all the students, you got to know where the gaps are. You got to know where the deficits are. You got to know where, the weaknesses are. That's what that shows. So I'm really hoping that as parents, that we will get to the school board and demand to see that audit, and demand to keep that audit, and to demand to use that audit in a way that it was based upon. One of the things that bothered me about it was the audit was taken from people in the district, staff people, teachers, students, parents. So that was their voice. So if you throw the audit away, say it's rubbish and trash, are you saying their voices are rubbish and trash and just throwing their voices away? So as a parent, what do you think about them throwing the audit away, or what are your plans as a parent moving forward?
Well, obviously, getting involved. We have to get involved. I mean, clearly the election wasn't a representation of our district. We know that, with what the turnout was. And, as Dr. O said, as you said, getting out to these board meetings, even if, both parents can't make it, hopefully one can. As you know now, my wife is going to just about every meeting, and,
Yes.
when needed, I'm going to the meetings as well. Hold them accountable, because, as much as, it's very unfortunate that this trustee is this way and seems to be digging his heels in. Maybe I'm glass half full, but I'm hoping, looking at the other two, maybe some of their rhetoric was slightly maybe moving.
Hopefully.
And we as the community, if we come out and make sure it's clear that this is our stance,
Right.
they'll have nothing to do but to follow it. But maybe I'll part with a slight joke. You mentioned sensitivity training, things like that. I wouldn't mind getting them a data training, because the person who called themselves a data guy didn't know how to read the data. So hopefully throw one of those in there as well.
Yeah, data training for the data guy. Okay. And I'm joking about that, but I'm serious. I think that my understanding of dealing with people like that, who talk like that, some of them really just don't know. They have been raised that way. And so they feel emboldened to be able to say what they think. But when you open your mouth, and I said that the other day, and it's in the Bible, because a lot of them are Christian people, it says, out of the mouth flow the issues of the heart. So it's coming out. Maybe you don't know what you're saying fully, but if you have 2 hours of people telling you you're wrong, you're probably wrong. Okay. So when we speak, we got to make sure that we have the knowledge inside that is in our heart and in our mind before we open our mouths. Otherwise, we need to be opening our mouth to ask questions so we can learn and we can do better. So I'm hoping that this, as parents, what you're saying is that we got to show up at these board meetings in person, and we got to vote. Because what was the percentage of people that voted? I was really upset about that. Do you remember?
I heard it was something around 1.5% of the eligible electorate. So we're talking, 98 potentially +% of people not coming to the polls and showing what their view is. And I think that's clearly the problem. They're not representative of anywhere close to the majority of the district, unfortunately.
Right. And that's what I want you all to hear and spread this information. 1.5% of eligible voters came to the polls. And Dr. Ogletree was very close to winning. He just needed a few more people, maybe another percent, to come out and vote. And we couldn't get people to vote. We couldn't get people to show up. You have to, put money to help, because it costs a lot of money to run these campaigns and get the stuff you need. You got to come out and work, because one person cannot cover the whole district and get the information out there. And you've got to vote. And more than your vote, you got to make sure that your vote is multiplied by 10. So by your one vote, you need to have at least 10 people that are voting that you're taking to the polls with you. So thank you so much, Mr. Demir. So hang on with us. You may have some more comments. We welcome them. We want to bring on our next guest right now. He is very, very important as we're talking about voting. We're going to just slide into a very, very wonderful young man who is very near and dear to our heart. He's got a hard job before him, but we are here to help him. Okay, so I want you to welcome Mr. Evagaro, Mr. Otis Evagaro, to Tea Talk. Hello, Mr. Otis. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Lady O.
Okay, welcome. So tell us who you are, what you do, what's going on.
Absolutely. So my name is Otis Evagaro. I always tell people the way you see it is the way you say it, but the B is silent. So Evagaro. I'm actually chair of the Harris County Democratic Party. I'm also the chief of staff for State Representative John Rosenthal, who represents the area and won his seat in 2018. And also, most importantly for me, especially with what's been going on, I'm a former Cy-Fair kid, elementary, middle school, graduated high school, Langham Creek, class of 10, go Lobos. So this issue has been very, very personal for me. And I think that some of you who have seen me speak out over the past couple of days can see how disappointed, heartbroken, and angry I am about these comments made by this school board trustee.
Right. You know, one of the things that I heard, and I when we did, I try to remember if it was you that said it or can't remember it right off. But anyway, we as African American people, one thing you don't talk about is our what? Black people, our mom. We don't talk about our mom, okay? So somebody said,
you can't talk about our mamas,
You can't talk about my mama. If you talk about my mama, it's pull off the earrings, whatever else is gonna fall off, and we're gonna fight. Because as African Americans, a lot of us grew up in single parent homes. And where I came from, you could say a whole lot of hurtful things. But if you talk about my mom, it's on. So when you talk about African American teachers, you're talking about a lot of mothers.
Right.
Because the African American teachers were a lot of mothers to these kids. We saw them as mothers. And truth is, I have children. So when you talk about me as an African American teacher, I have children who would say, "You don't talk about my mom, it's going to be fighting words," or my grandmother, right, or my auntie, right. African American women. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. But listen, we are in this situation because voting and the lack of voting has consequences.
Right.
So talk to us about where we are with voting in this district and what can we do? Give us some thoughts here.
So, we say this all the time. Elections have consequences. When you don't vote, they have consequences. We saw that in 2016. And I know that I'm not speaking for everybody, right, depending on the political party that you're affiliated with. But from where I stand and my viewpoint, elections have consequences. And we saw that in 2016. We see this in 2020. Thankfully, we have the right person in the White House, in my belief. And then we saw this in 2021. We lost a great school board member in Dr. Ogletree. You all know how I feel about you, because we didn't get out and vote, and we tried our hardest to mobilize folks. But I'm not here to harp on the past. I'm here to talk about the future and the light that's coming our way. We've got to plan. We've got to plot, we've got to plan, we've got to strategize, we've got to organize, we've got to mobilize. That's what we've got to do. And that's what we're doing from the standpoint of the Harris County Democratic Party. I know Representative John Rosenthal is doing that himself too. And then making sure I'm doing that with my parents who still live in the district, my brother and sister. So it's all hands on deck. We know, and we've got to better inform people of what's going on. Look, these remarks that were made at the Cy-Fair School Board, there were no shock. This is exactly what they ran on. What is happening in this country is feeding into what we call the big lie, where adults are not accepting defeat or not accepting responsibility for their actions, and it's starting to trickle down on the local level. So those remarks made were no surprise. That's the platform they ran on. Classroom censorship, anti-teaching kids history. You're seeing this up and down, not just at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. And quite frankly, it's beyond the pale. And I said this, school board, I said this at the press conference. We've got to do a better job, and we've got to fight against this. We can no longer sit on our hands because our fragile democracy is absolutely on the line.
Exactly. Well, you did a great job of speaking the other night. We want to thank you so much for representing and being there. You made a statement. You said that this particular school board member and the statements did not represent Cy-Fair. What did you mean by that? It did not represent Cy-Fair.
Well, this is a community that I grew up in. And I made that loud and clear. It's not the community that I grew up in. Now, let's face it. Yes, we're a diverse community. There will be racists among us. We cannot run from that. But the overall collective does not represent, and those comments that he made do not reflect fair. I grew up in this school district. And what was disappointing to me is that we didn't see school board members speak up. We didn't see other people speak up. And I've used this line over and over again when speaking about this, but I say this all the time. When we see wrong, we have a moral obligation to speak up, no matter what. Desmond Tutu, the late Desmond Tutu, who just passed away, said, look, if you're neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor. We cannot
Wow.
have people sit out. You can't sit out. Our democracy is on the line. That's what makes this country great. That's why my parents immigrated here from Nigeria. I was born in London, England, because we came to America for opportunities like education. And to make a comment and to say that Black educators essentially equate to dropout rates is flat out wrong. And this notion that the rest of us interpreted it the wrong way when he made these comments and retreated back from these comments is wrong as well too. We've got to teach our students to take responsibility for their actions, right or wrong. And when we run away from that, it feeds again into this big lie that you can do whatever you want, get away with it, consequences. And that's why I was happy that his employer terminated his contract and terminated his employment. I take no gain in anyone losing their job. We all have bills to pay. We all got mouths to feed. But when you're not taking responsibility for the actions that you've made, well, there's got to be harsh consequences that come, especially since we can't remove him as a school board member. He seems like he's not willing to resign. So, hey, lose your job. And in 4 years, we are going to see you at the poll. Trust me, we are going to organize around him and the other Tea Party members that are part of that school board.
I appreciate that support. I really do. And the thing that just hurt me so badly too, not only as an African American teacher, but African American children are watching us. They're watching what goes on in these school board meetings, and they're watching our responses. They're watching what we say, what we don't say, what we do, what we don't do. So I'm really praying that, you know, we get it together and do the right thing, because they're watching us, and teachers that have to teach every day, administrators have to, they're watching us, they're listening to what we're saying, what we don't say. So it's very important. So I wanted to move on into the part of it about the voting and getting ready. I know when we were getting working so hard with the campaign for Dr. Ogletree, the Republican Party got involved in the making sure, and I think that's a lot of why they won, because the Republican Party, which is not supposed to get into it, they got into it. And so I wasn't sure why the Democratic Party did not get involved in to help us as well. Is there a reason why? Was that legal, or what happened there with that?
Yeah, I think that the one thing that we looked at was, you know, scored races are nonpartisan.
Right.
So it's hard for you to get partisanly involved. And the Republican Party, you know, let's face it, they spent a lot of money into these school board races, and resources are a little sparse when you're not in a presidential or gubernatorial cycle. And I know that we got involved a little bit, especially sending out text messages and phone banking into the district. Clearly, it was not enough, but we'll be better prepared in the next time and for the future. But again, we've got to plot, we've got to plan, we've got to strategize, we've got to organize, and then we've got to mobilize. And I also want to say something too. You know, I heard a lot of rhetoric from the other side saying that all of a sudden the boardroom meeting is full, people who didn't show interest before are there. That's flatly wrong. This is why we need equity studies. When you have parents who are working 2 jobs, they have 3 kids, minimum wage has not risen in decades. We haven't expanded Medicaid. There's a reason why a lot of those parents showed up the other night when they normally cannot show up. It's because they're working a job where they're taking their student to a ball game or extracurricular activities. We've got to do a better job of educating people. Also, this whole notion that the history of segregation was 80, 90 years ago is patently false. Go walk through the halls of Cy-Fair High School, where there's multitudes of water fountains and bathrooms. People don't know why. It's because they were separated by colored and white. So there was many parents in that room that are just as old as the beginning of the civil rights movement. So that's why we need these studies, because things have not gotten better. Look at the country around us. So we've got to talk, when we talk about these things, we've got to talk about it full scale and full circle and better educating the voter. And like I said, Lady O, we tried our hardest to get involved, whether it's text messages or phone banking. We've got to do a better job in the future. I'm not going to run from that, and I know that we will.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, because that's what, you know, I'm all for, is informing people. And that's what all of this talk is about, the talk show and the things that I do, and educating the voter. And that's what I'm going to be really getting involved in strongly, getting ready for the primaries and those kind of things. And even for the school board election that'll come up, the next one, we've got to get our voters involved and informed and empowered. One of the things that I'm doing, and I'm going to kick that off today to share with each of you all. I've been really praying about it and talking to a lot of people in the district. And so we are going to get organized. And so we're going to have a new group that's going to be coming out. And I want each of you all to go to this website. I want you to subscribe and to comment, share, like, because we have got to get the numbers working together with, the different strategies and plots that you guys have. We're going to work together and get the groups together, not just one person, but bring your groups, all that you know, so we can be empowered by numbers. And those numbers are going to vote and get more numbers. And we just got to work smarter, not harder. So I want to share the flyer with you. And Stacy DeMeyer has done this for me. I asked her really at the last minute, could you do something for me? And I gave her my strategy and my vision. And so this is what she came up with. And so it's going to be called the Sci-Fair Community for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, the DEI. And it's a place for Sci-Fair community members to gather, be informed, and to become empowered to act. So, and you see the hands up there. I told them make all the different colored hands, because who can join this group? Anybody that wants to help Sci-Fair fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it's all about. So we're going to be at those school board meetings. We're going to get us some T-shirts. One of the board members says she likes T-shirt. We'll make sure she gets one. And so we're going to make sure that we come as a united force, that this is our district. These are our kids. We're willing to fight for them, and we cannot allow people to come in and make comments like this. We can educate them, or either they can find another place. But for this place, we want to make sure that inclusion of all of the parents, and that they are included and they are informed. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'll be meeting with lots of people, and of course, you too, to make sure we get connected to what we can do as a group. So as far as getting involved in the Democratic or convention in our area, can you tell us what we need to do? Is there a website, or what would you suggest that we do to get involved?
Yeah, to get involved, you just simply need to
you're
visit.
muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, to get involved, and I'll quickly, so that way you can quickly go on to your next guest. It's the harrisdemocrats.org. You visit our website, you can donate, you can volunteer, sign up for a shift. We need all hands on deck, and I'm glad Lady O mentioned the primaries that are coming up. The last day to register to vote is January 31st. The first day to early vote is February 14th, Valentine's Day. Please make a plan to early vote and vote in your primary. There will be long lines March 1st on Election Day. So again, last day to register to vote, January 31st. First day of early vote is February 14th. Election Day is March 1st. Visit harrisdemocrats.org to get all the necessary information that you need. Okay, so what we'll probably be doing is getting together a flyer that says the last day to register to vote is January 31st, because I did not know that. And the dates just come so fast and you're so busy. January 31st will be here before you know it. So we need to be getting people registered to vote. Now, here's another thing, too, that a lot of the parents on here may not know, that if you have a child who will be 18 by the age of voting in November, correct, that they can register. Right. Can you make sure I'm right with that? Help me. Absolutely. So if they're 17 years old and they're 30 days out, they can still register to vote before their 18th birthday. Those rules, again, if you visit harrisvotes.com, those rules are laid out there in print so you can see it. harrisvotes.com, right? Correct. Okay. And look here, looks like our guest was not able to get on. So this is perfect, because we would have had to squeeze everybody in. And I want to make sure everybody gets the information that they have. So I want you all to make sure that you put that word out there. We've got the flyer. We're going to put it out there. If you'll share the flyer to everybody encourage them to become a friend, so that I can put the information out there. Oh, is he on? Okay, very good.
So I'm going to give the last few minutes. Bishop is on now. I know he's a busy man. Thank you so much, Bishop, for joining us. We just wanted to hear your voice, and thank you for the words that you said last week in the school board election, the school board meeting. So talk to us. We'd like to hear from you and your thoughts about you represent the NAACP as well as a lot of other different factions. What are your thoughts about what's going on so far? You're muted. Uh-oh. We may have lost him. We almost had him, but we're going to have him come back if he's not on. Can you hear me, Bishop Dixon? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I'm going to keep talking.
Hello?
And as if you're on, just keep talking. I'll stop. Let me tell you guys something that the Lord shared with me several months ago, and I want to share with you. Why is it urgent for us to have this conversation and get ready and mobilized to do something? Because we have an election coming up that's going to determine who's going to be our governor, our lieutenant governor, and all those positions. They're coming up. And if we don't get the right people in there, you talk about getting the wrong person on the school board, getting the wrong person as the governor, the wrong person as lieutenant governor, and all those kind of things, we're going to be in a big, big, bad way. And when I was listening to the Lord talk about it, I heard him say that people are planning a new building. That new building that they're planning is called a plantation. And it's a plantation that they plan to put all minorities and people who don't think like them. So when they do that, they will govern us, they will rule us, they will dictate what we can and cannot do, and we will not be able to vote and say anything about it. It's just like on the plantation back in the day when there were millions of slaves on the plantation. They couldn't get off. They couldn't do anything because they were governed by people who ran the plantation. So, Bishop Dixon, if you can hear me, just start talking. I'm just talking until I can hear you. So, yeah, so we got a couple of questions on here for you. Just says, when you said that the trustee needed to repent and resign, what did you mean by that? And why do you say that? Oh God, we're gonna have to have him back next week when he can really talk. That means so don't worry about it. We'll get you back on, Bishop Dixon. I know you're very busy. I appreciate you trying to get on. That technical difficulty just would not let you on. But I want to close with just saying, guys, that we're almost to the end, but you heard a lot of great things today. What do you do with what you hear? Are you willing to make a commitment to get involved? We've given you the information. I've told you how urgent it is. You are about to be on a plantation that you cannot get off. And you won't be able to get off of it because the rules are the ones that dictate who is on the plantation. The rules dictate the laws, what you can do, what you cannot do. They even dictate whether or not you even have the right to vote. And that's where we're going. And if you stay, you're not woke. If you stay asleep, you need to wake up because our democracy is being taken away from us. And when we heard about how many people did not vote, it doesn't have to be if we would just get involved and just use the voting rights we have while we have them. We're getting ready to lose them. We're getting ready to lose our democracy. And it's all because of people who we're talking about Martin Luther King's birthday. Why were you born? He was born 50 something years ago to give us this freedom that we have now. And what have we done? Have we really just been too lax with enjoying that freedom? Have we been too lax without understanding that people are taking it away? Have we been so caught up in the fact that we've got money, we got cars, we want the finest, we want to live in the finest, we want to eat the finest, we want to go to the finest, but we don't want to take the time out. We don't want to come we want to, but we don't make the sacrifice. We need to be thinking about it as like we are in the 50s. We are in the 50s, okay? where they're coming for our schools. Well, talking about integration. If you go back and look at the thing on Twitter, it says that the little picture that was on there had 2 water fountains, cut for colored, for blacks. Why would you put that on your Twitter page? And you're on the school board? Why would you do that? It just talks about your heart. And if you think it's a joke, we as Black people don't see that as a joke. We don't see it as a good example to use to explain something that you're trying to say. It was racist, and that was another reason why I was upset. It wasn't just about what he said. It's the things that are on his website. It's the picture of the little black girl at the water fountain for colors and for whites. And he says something about going back to that. So I'm telling you, Black people, minority people, white people that are good white people, good people in general, it's not about your color, because whatever color you are, it's not going to matter. You're going to be on the plantation just with us, okay? So we have got to band together, organize, and as Otis was saying, we got to plot, we got to strategize, and we got to be uncomfortable. We got to get into some good trouble, and that means that you've got to get involved. We don't need just your one vote. We need a group working together to mobilize your whole community, your whole street. We don't need just your $25 donation. We need you to give us $2,500 donations, because they're getting money from people that have millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And so we have got to sacrifice that $2,500 for our future. Now, the thing I'm going to lead you with this is, I said it's Martin Luther King's birthday. Why were you born? When you leave here, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? What are the children saying about what you're doing in this particular time? Who knows, but you were not put in the position that you're in. You were not born and living in this position, given the money and the things that you have that are so comfortable. Who knows, but that you were not chosen by God for such a time as this, to change this world. So we have got to not stop being comfortable, because Martin Luther King left us one thing. What have we done with it? They're taking it back. What are we going to leave our children? What is going to be our legacy? Are we going to let them take us back to the 50s? And that's what we're going to leave our kids, trying to go back and forth with no laws, no voting, no nothing? We have got to stand up, and we got to make sure that the legacy that we create, that we leave a good legacy for our children so they can move forward and not be pulled backwards. What a shame. What a shame on this community if you don't stand up and make sure we hold on to what we got and move our school district forward, move our communities forward, move this state of Texas forward, and move this United States of America forward. We can do it with your help, not just with you yourself. It's going to be mobilizing your companies and your groups that you're involved in. So I challenge you, as you celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, make him proud of the day that you were born by doing some of what he did. By any means necessary, make sure that you take the baton and you move it forward so that our children can have a better school, a better community, and a better country. That's my appeal to you. I will see you next week on Tea Talk. We're going to have some wonderful things, but please share this with somebody and let them know, get them involved, get them on fire, get them motivated. We've got work to do. Thank you, all of my guests, for joining me. We will get with Bishop Dixon and get him back on here. I really wanted to hear him, so we will get him back on here as well. So stay tuned to Tea Talk, for truly the message today is get involved. See you next week at 3 for tea.